cute.
It may surprise you to know that Wes Craven actually had a long and complicated history with the Nightmare on Elm Street series. After coming back to work on the script for Part 3, long considered to be the best sequel in the series, Wes and producer Bob Shaye evidently had a bad falling out. I'm not sure why this was, exact details are a bit askew on this, but after the release of Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, the two buried the hatchet, put whatever bad blood there was behind them, and Shaye offered Craven the opportunity to do one more Nightmare film. Wes looked over the series and realized that it had become too convoluted a mess to follow, especially after the train wreck that was Freddy's Dead. So Wes came up with the idea to have the film based in reality. It was actually an idea he had for the third film when he came back as the writer for that, but it was shut down by the studio for being too stupid. Yes, New Nightmare was originally shot down for being too stupid. Yeah, New Line Cinema, can you explain these? But whatever. They said okay this time around, and thus we got Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It was mostly well received by critics, but when it comes to the Nightmare fanbase, I find that the fans are pretty split down the middle on this one. Many of them see it as a masterpiece, even on par with the original Elm Street. Some see it as such a departure that they outright hate the movie and don't even consider it a worthwhile film at all. And I won't lie. Growing up on the Nightmare movies, I didn't particularly like this one. Don't hit me! However, in the interest of this event, instead of blindly hating on a movie I hadn't taken the time to watch in at least a decade, I gave it another go. I mean, I'm older now, I'm wiser, I should be able to see it from a new point of view. And honestly, with no joking whatsoever, I think New Nightmare is one of the most creative works of Craven's career. Do I think it's the best? No, there's still a few things I had issues with, but for what it is, this film does its job very well. So, what's the story? Well, that's really the thing. Let me put it this way. Maybe creative was too on the nose. This movie is fucking weird. Not weird in a bad way, but just weird enough where the plot has had me sitting here at my keyboard like a goon for 2 hours, trying to find ways to describe it. So, here's the short-ish version. In this film, we're not technically dealing with Freddy. What we're dealing with is a demon who latched onto the image of Freddy when he was created and has since been contained within the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. However, he apparently didn't take too kindly to the series being over and has now taken it upon himself to cross over into our reality, taking a darker form of Freddy to make life hell for the original Nightmare's main actress, Heather Langenkamp, as well as original writer-director Wes Craven, who is currently writing the entirety of this film as it's happening. Yeah, you see how this can be a bit hard to describe? Yet, through all the weirdness this movie demonstrates, Craven manages to make just about all of it work. Mainly because New Nightmare makes its audience do something they haven't had to do since the first movie. Think! When you break it down, New Nightmare is not a slasher film. Hell, the kill count in the movie is 2. Yeah, only 2 people die in the entire film. Unless you maybe count the opening, but that was just a dream and didn't really happen, so yeah, only 2 people die in this movie. This is a psychological horror film where you are made to use your brain, where some things are obviously the work of this demon impersonating Freddy, but where other things just might be in Heather's head. And Craven went about this in very creative ways, and that works. The title of New Nightmare should have indicated to everyone that this is not going to be like the other Freddy films that came before. It is a completely separate animal. There's a scene where an earthquake makes 4 long cracks in Heather's wall that look like Freddy's claw marks. Maybe it's coincidence or maybe it's not. She's getting a ton of weird phone calls that could either really be from Freddy or maybe the stalker she had at the time. At the end of the day, there is a supernatural force in this movie, but we're left to wonder how much of it is the demon and how much of it is just Heather. The way this movie explores horror films and the effects it might have on the people who make them is just fascinating. That's what makes this movie great. The psychological elements are perfectly handled, and the movie messes with the minds of its audience every bit as it messes with the minds of the characters. Or real people, or... yeah, you get the idea. Heather Langenkamp is every bit as wonderful here as she was in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and the fact that she is forced to play Nancy Thompson once again to defeat this demon makes us feel for her more. She's in the real world being forced to play a fake character in this demon's little game, so much to the point that even actor John Saxon thinks he's Nancy's father again. The way the film blurs the lines of fiction and reality is just great. The actors are all wonderful. Even the behind-the-scenes guys playing themselves do great work and really sell the film. Even when there's scenes with no horror. Just watching these people play off each other is fun to watch. I especially love the exchanges between Robert Englund and Heather Langenkamp.
About it. We've got a big surprise for you, Heather, and for our audience. Let's bring him out. He is the best of the bad. Let's say hello to Robert Englund. Love you, babe. We'll do lunch.
Speaking of Robert Englund, he not only plays himself in the movie, he also plays the darker version of Freddy, and my god is he beastly. He's got a cooler glove, a trench coat, badass boots, a bigger fedora hat. Freddy is more visually interesting in this film than he's ever been in the past. In some ways, because it's not really Freddy. There's a scene where Wes Craven explains to Heather that this demon has taken the form of other monsters that writers have created in the past. And towards the end of the movie, this demon creates a shadow that mimics Nosferatu. That's some really clever filmmaking at work. Now, if there is one downside that I felt took it a step too far, and if I'm being honest, I still don't fully understand it, it's the script subplot. The subplot that Wes Craven is writing this movie as it's happening. Now, minor spoilers here, the fictionalized version of Heather Langenkamp's husband gets killed by this thing. So, if Wes was dreaming the script, couldn't he have warned her that her husband was gonna die?
Did you know?
It was a script. It was a dream. I didn't.
Bullshit! It was a dream and you didn't know! You don't remember writing this exact conversation you're now having with Heather? Did you not pick up something was awry when all the earthquakes you wrote about were actually starting to happen? God, Wes, you're a dick! I'm sorry, Wes, baby. I didn't mean it. You're a real nice person, so talented and just a joy. I love you, man. Hey, this man's mind created this thing. Damn right I'm a pussy. Yeah, that's always a part of the film that bugged me. I liked the conversation scene with him and Heather, but just the whole script subplot was a bit too much. I like when Wes goes meta. I like the Scream movies, but even for meta, this was pushing it a bit. Aside from that, New Nightmare managed to make Freddy scary again by, ironically, making him not Freddy. Yeah, don't try to make sense out of that sentence. Your brain will probably explode. Wes Craven's New Nightmare was a brilliant, creative horror film that capped off Freddy's legacy in top form. At least until Freddy vs. Jason, and I'm giving it an A. Now that I talked about something I like, what's next on my list? Oh, God, just shoot me now.
Miss me?